You are now listening to The Unwavering, the movement dedicated to educating and empowering the brave men and women who have or are still serving our great nation. What's up, everyone? This is Kevin with another episode of The Unwavering. Before we get started, I want to go ahead and say thank you to everyone who's currently out there forward deployed, being away from your family, friends, and loved ones. We truly appreciate your sacrifice and everything that you're doing for us. So first and foremost, big thank you to you guys. Unfortunately, my co-hosts Dan and Gerard are not available today, but we will continue to provide you the content that you guys deserve to hear. So with that being said, I wanted to go ahead and talk to you guys about a situation that I went through recently because I feel like there's not enough information out there for us veterans. I think, unfortunately, sometimes when you're not really prepared for it and you get sick out of nowhere, the ability for you to get to one of these main VAs is just not possible. So sometimes instead of going to a VA or an actual hospital, the best choice is for you to go to urgent care. In this situation, what had happened was I ended up getting strep throat really bad. I knew that I was sick, but I also knew that for me to get from where I live to the VA in West LA, it was going to take me roughly an hour and a half depending on traffic. So instead of driving all that way, I decided to try something different. I had heard that because I am a disabled veteran, I could utilize the VA urgent care with an in-network provider that was outside of the main hospital. So that's what I chose to do. Now, in order to do that, there's a few steps that I want you to go ahead and pay attention to because it's not as simple as you may think. First thing is you want to make sure that the actual urgent care you're going to attend is in fact part of the VA network. The best way to do this is simply to Google it. I'm going to go ahead and walk you through the step as I go through it and kind of share with you guys what I went through so you don't make the same mistakes. But if you're on your cell phone, if you're on your computer, the first thing that you want to do is go ahead and go to Google and just type in VA Urgent Care Locator. Once you go to the Urgent Care Locator, the first website that should pop up, or one of the first, will say va.gov/community care programs, and then it should have a tab for urgent care. Once you get to that tab, you're going to scroll down to the bottom and it's going to have a facility locator. So once you do that, you can go ahead and find locations based off of your address. It'll ask you city, state, postal code. You'll go ahead and fill that out. It's going to give you urgent cares that are located within your general vicinity. At that point, you can go ahead and choose whatever's the most convenient for you. In my case, it actually ended up being a place called Minute Clinic, which is part of the CVS pharmacy network. So you go to the normal CVS, you go in there, you make an appointment. You can do it in person or you could do it online. I think when I went in, it took me maybe an hour to be seen. I walked in, scheduled myself, and then I think went to go grab some food to eat, came back, and by the time I came back, I was ready to go. But once you go to this website for urgent care, there's going to be a tab that says, remember, before seeking care, read this important notice. And ordinarily, I don't usually click on those things just because I have so much other stuff going on that I'm like, it's probably some piece of paper or some piece of information that I don't care about. But in this case, it is something that you guys want to do. Once you select that tab, it's going to show you 3 pages. One's going to say for the veteran, one will say for the provider, and one will say for the pharmacy. Now, these are important because some of these companies that you're going to see, some of these urgent cares are brand new to partnering with the VA, so they may not have all the answers. So this literally walks them through step by step. The first document that I mentioned for the veteran is going to say check eligibility. Now, if you know you're a disabled veteran, if you know your percentage rating, great, it's going to help you. But check eligibility, okay, you've already done that. Next, you can go ahead and see that provider, and when you go there, you're going to provide them with any form of identification. For myself, I actually have a veteran's identification card. So when they asked for my insurance, I said, hey, I'm a disabled veteran. Here's my card. And that's what they took. But on this paper, it says for the provider, when they're checking eligibility, it specifically tells them the veterans do not have an insurance card. So utilizing urgent care as a disabled veteran does not count as your normal TRICARE insurance. It's going to be a completely separate benefit because you are disabled. It will also tell them on this piece of paper that no prior authorization is required, meaning you don't have to go directly to the VA and ask for permission. If it's an emergency and you need to go to urgent care, you just go. It also tells them not to collect a copayment at the time of the visit, there's certain information that it has for them when it comes to writing a prescription. Now, this is important, and talking with the doctor that day, I'm glad that he shared this info with me, because if urgent care writes you a prescription for more than 14 days, it will actually get denied. So if they do write you a prescription, tell them it can be for no more than 14 days for your standard drugs. Now, if it is an opiate, it's actually limited to only 7 days. At that point, once you've reached either the 7 or 14 days, then you're supposed to go report to an actual VA facility where they can see you and treat you there. And if you do need more medication, they can provide you with that there. So that's kind of just the rundown. Once you've done that, the provider has to submit the claim within 30 days. It gives them an address, who to contact, and all of that. So that takes care of them. Now, the important part, this is where I kind of ran into some issues, but I want to go ahead and share it with you. Once they did give me my prescription, I walked directly over to the CVS pharmacy, which was really nice because, like I said, everything was in-house. I walked over to the pharmacy, and I believe I was only their third or fourth veteran that has utilized this service, so they were still relatively new to it. It was still uncharted waters, if you will. So they didn't really know what was going on. But luckily, like I said, I printed out these 3 sheets, and the one that specifically states for the pharmacy, I handed to them, and we kind of went through it line by line together. We verified that my prescriptions weren't over 14 days. I gave them my Social Security. They knew not to charge me a copayment. And they also knew some other things, such as no refills were allowed. I had to go back to the VA. And then it gives them where to send that information. So once they issue you the medication, for the most part, you shouldn't really have to pay anything, right? Now, there's going to be some reasons why you may or may not have to, and I'll kind of get into that in my own personal story here shortly. But just make sure that, one, everything checks out up to this point. You've been seen, you have a prescription for no more than 14 days. And if there's anything else that they need from you, whether they need to know your Social Security, you share that information with them, date of birth, things like that. So again, the sheet will walk you through it. Here's where it gets kind of weird though. What had happened was, when they did give me my prescription, they had to verify that the VA was actually going to pay for those prescriptions. Ordinarily, the pharmacy help desk for the VA is only open Monday through Friday, but I believe as of June of this year, they actually expanded it to Saturdays as well. So Monday through Saturday, 24 hours, there's going to be someone there to answer your call, and they can actually see your prescription in the system and approve it there in person. So that's what ended up happening. They took all of my information, the prescriptions, and the weird thing was, for some reason, the VA was not willing to cover my amoxicillin because it came in the form of a tablet. If it would have come in the form of a capsule, then it would have been covered. But because it came in a tablet, they weren't willing to pay for that prescription. So that one I actually ended up having to pay out of pocket. And I think it only ended up costing me $25. But the other 3 medications that I walked away with that day were all completely covered by the VA. Now, your priority group is really going to be what makes a difference in what you get covered for and what you don't get covered for. Now, this is going to tie into you receiving prescriptions from the VA. So I just kind of want to break it down for you guys. For priority groups 2 or 3, which again, that means you are disabled anywhere from 10 to 40%, you will not pay a medication copayment, but for any drugs, and they mark them down into different tiers. A tier 1 drug, you'll have to pay $5. Tier 2 drugs, that'll be $8. Tier 3, that'll be $11. So that's if you fall into priority groups 2 or 3, and again, you're disabled anywhere from 10 to 40%. Now, if you're disabled 50% or more, you pay absolutely nothing. You don't pay for inpatient care. You don't pay for outpatient care. No co-pays, none of that. You also do not pay for any of the outpatient medication. That means tier 1, 2, and 3 drugs. You're not going to pay for any of that. So it's just one thing to know what your percentage is, how that's going to affect you, and what you can expect to pay. But again, you utilizing this service, especially if it's outside of the main VA, it's going to be free to you. You just have to know how to use it. And if you do run into an issue where the pharmacy is unable to help you, or they're saying, hey, you know what, we put your order in the system, but the VA did not approve it, I'm going to give you the direct number that you can have them contact, or you can contact yourself for a VA assistant to actually approve it in real time. So that number is going to be 1-800-922-1557. And again, that number is good for all TRICARE. So not just TRICARE West, it's across the U.S. And again, they are open from Monday through Saturday. So if you do have to attend urgent care on Sunday, I'm not sure exactly how that would work. I don't know if you would have to come back the next day to receive your prescription or how that would work. I'll definitely look into it. But for now, just know that if you do attend urgent care, you are a disabled veteran. You should not be paying for any medication unless it is not approved by the VA. And if there is an issue and something does not get approved by VA, the first thing that you want to do is go ahead and reach out to the Express Scripts Pharmacy Help Desk. And again, that number is 1-800-922-1557. So I hope that this little tidbit helps you guys. It's the random information that's out there that we don't have access to, or maybe we do, we just don't know how to find it, that we're looking to share. So if you guys have, tips or have been through similar experiences, this is a relatively new program, and I think not that many people have that information. So please continue to share these things. If you guys have anything you'd like to share with the fellow listeners, you want to send it in, that would be a tremendous help. But for right now, I hope that this little piece of information helps you, and you guys who are currently rated are able to utilize your urgent care, whether it's at the VA or in my situation where it was an inconvenience to drive all the way to the VA, going to an in-care provider that was located in my city. Luckily, the Minute Clinic that was attached to that CVS was, I think, 3 miles from where I lived. So it was super convenient. And the fact that it's readily available and they were able to see me within an hour was a tremendous help. So know that there are opportunities for you to go see a private practitioner. You just have to know kind of how it works, and more importantly, who to contact if something goes wrong. Now, going into a different topic, but along the same lines, I kind of want to discuss how the VA gets you to see out of care providers, right? And we're not talking urgent care. Now we're talking more along the lines of either physical therapy or things like that, actual procedures or things that you need to schedule appointments, not last minute emergencies. So for myself, as you guys heard me say in an earlier episode, I'm currently going to a chiropractor outside of the VA. Now, the way I was able to do that was when I went to the VA, I went to my primary care doctor. I said, hey, I'm going through a lot of pain and discomfort. If you look at my medical record, I do have damage to my spine, and I would really like to see a provider, whether it's a chiropractor or someone to kind of help alleviate some of that pain. Now, because the chiropractors at the West Los Angeles VA were so backed up, and they were backed up over 30 days, I was then able to request to see a private practitioner completely free to me. So whenever I go to my chiropractor, I don't pay a copay. I don't pay for any of that. It's all taken care of. Now, there's a few things. One, I'm only able to do that because the VA was not able to meet the 30-day requirement. So if you can't be seen for something, whether it's, back pains, whether it's an injury to an eye, or whatever your issue is, if you can't be seen for something within 30 days, then you can request to be seen outside. I've used this to get glasses and an eye exam through a private practitioner. I've used it for my spine. So you can utilize it for multiple things. But that outside practitioner has to be associated with the VA. If they're not, the VA is not going to look at them and they're not going to pop up in their registry. Luckily, my chiropractor was part of the VA network and I was able to go see them. What the VA did was they said, hey, Kevin, we know that you're going through some pain. Unfortunately, we can't accommodate you at the VA here in West Los Angeles. What would you like to do? And I said, I have a chiropractor that I would like to go see. Gave them the business name, who the doctor was, and the location, which happened to be only a few miles from the actual VA itself. So it was super convenient. But I said, hey, when you guys give out of network care, what does that entail me to? How many times am I going to be able to go see the chiropractor? How much is it going to cost me? What do I have to know before even starting? And they said, We're going to make it super simple for you. If you'd like, you can schedule your own appointment, or we can actually stay on the line and schedule it with you, which is what I ended up doing. So they stayed on the line. We called my doctor's office, made the appointment in real time. And then after the appointment was done, they explained to me exactly what I was getting out of it. So for the chiropractor, they ended up giving me 12 visits for up to 90 days, meaning anytime during those 90 days, I could use all 12 of those visits. That's important for you guys to know, because sometimes there's going to be multiple times where you can follow up and continue to receive care from that in-network provider, and sometimes there's not. When I went to go get an eye exam and went to go get vision done, I was only allowed one main consultation and then one follow-up. So it is going to vary, but that's why it's important that you ask these questions. You need to know how long it's going to last, what you have to pay, if anything at all, which again, if you are service connected disabled, then you won't be paying for any of those things. That's just another incentive for you guys to get out there, register with the VA, get all of these things taken care of, because it's a huge help for you to be able to go say, hey, you know what, instead of me driving an hour and a half to the VA or whatever the distance may be, I can go to someone down the street. Now, again, it is kind of inconvenient that you may have to wait 30 days or so, but having that opportunity or having that availability to choose your own doctor that may or may not be outside the VA is huge. And the fact that you're not paying anything is an incentive in itself. So I hope that covering those two topics, although briefly, is able to help you. If you guys have any questions regarding utilizing urgent care outside of the VA, who to contact, how to get the process started, or who to connect with, please let me know, and I can give you more information. I can connect you to people directly at the VA or outside of the VA so that you guys can take advantage of some of these opportunities to get your health in order. So unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this episode. But as always, we will continue to produce content. And if you guys have anything for us, questions, comments, want to know a little bit more about the process or where you can find this information, please let us know, and we would love to help you out. Thanks for listening to The Unwavering. Please rate and comment on Apple Podcasts. Give us a 5-star and a great comment, and we may just read it on a future episode. Also, follow us on social platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Be sure to check back with us next week.